Chapter 6. In the garden. Rachel Miller was not a woman to do a thing by halves. As soon as the question was settled, she gave her heart and mind to the necessary preparations. There might have been a little surprise in some quarters when the fact became known in the neighborhood through Joseph's invitation, but no expression of it reached the Aston place. Mrs. Warriner, Anna's mother, called to inquire if she could be of service and also to suggest, indirectly, her plan of entertaining company. Rachel detected the latter purpose and was a little more acquiescent than could have been justified to her own conscience, seeing that at the very moment when she was listening with much apparent meekness, she was mentally occupied with plans for outdoing Mrs. Warriner. Moreover, the Reverend Mr. Chaffinch had graciously signified his willingness to be present, and the stamp of strictest orthodoxy was thus set upon the entertainment. She was both assured and stimulated as the time drew near, and even surprised Joseph by saying, "If I was better acquainted with Miss Blessing, she might help me a good deal in fixing everything just as it should be. There are times, it seems, when it's an advantage to know something of the world." "I'll ask her," Joseph exclaimed. "You? And a mess you'd make of it, very likely. Men think they've only to agree to invite a company, and that's all. There's 100 things to be thought of that women must look to. You couldn't even understand him. As for speaking to her, she's one of the invites, and it would never do in the world." Joseph said no more, but he silently determined to ask Miss Blessing on her arrival. There would still be time. She, with her wonderful instinct, her power of accommodating people to each other, and the influence which she had already acquired with his aunt, would certainly see at a glance how the current was setting and guided in the proper direction. But, as the day drew near, he grew so restless and uneasy that there seemed nothing better to do than to ride over to Warriner's in the hope of catching a moment's conference with her in advance of the occasion. He was entirely fortunate. Anna was apparently very busy with household duties, and after the first greetings left him alone with Miss Blessing. He had anticipated a little difficulty in making his message known, and was therefore much relieved when she said, "Now, Mr. Aston, I see by your face that you have something particular to say. It's about tomorrow night, isn't it? You must let me help you, if I can, because I am afraid I have been, without exactly intending it, the cause of so much trouble to you and your aunt." Joseph opened his heart at once. All that he had meant to say came easily and naturally to his lips, because Miss Blessing seemed to feel and understand the situation and met him halfway in her bright, cheerful acquiescence. Almost before he knew it, he had made her acquainted with what had been said and done at home. How easily she solved the absurd doubts and difficulties which had so unnecessarily tormented him. How clearly, through her fine female instinct, she grasped little peculiarities of his aunt's nature, which he, after years of close companionship, had failed to define. Miss Rachel, she said, was both shy and inexperienced, and it was only the struggle to conceal these conscious defects which made her seem, not unamiable, exactly, but irregular in her manner. Her age, and her character in the neighborhood, did not permit her to appear incompetent to any emergency. It was a very natural pride, and must be treated very delicately and tenderly. Would Joseph trust the matter entirely to her, Miss Blessing? It was a great deal to ask, she knew, comparative stranger as she was, but she believed that a woman, when her nature had not been distorted by the conventionalities of life, had a natural talent for smoothing difficulties and removing obstacles for others. Her friends had told her that she possessed this power, and it was a great happiness to think so. In the present case, she was sure she should make no mistake. She would endeavor not to seem to suggest anything, but merely to assist in such a way that Miss Rachel would of herself see what else was necessary to be done. "Now," she remarked, in conclusion, "this sounds like vanity in me, but I really hope it is not. You must remember that in the city we are obliged to know all the little social arts and artifices, I am afraid. It is not always to our credit, but then the heart may be kept fresh and uncorrupted." She sighed and cast down her eyes. Joseph felt the increasing charm of a nature so frank and so trustful, constantly luring to the surface the maiden secrets of his own. The confidence already established between them was wholly delightful, because their sense of reciprocity increased as it deepened. He felt so free to speak that he could not measure the fitness of his words, but exclaimed, without a pause for thought, "Tell me, Miss Julia, did you not suggest this party to Aunt Rachel?" "Don't give me too much credit," she answered. "It was talked about, and I couldn't help saying I long so much to see you all again before I go away." And Lucy Henderson objected to it. Lucy, I think, wanted to save your aunt trouble. Perhaps she did not guess that the real objection was inexperience and not one of will to entertain company. And very likely she helped to bring it about by seeming to oppose it. "So you must not be angry with Lucy. Promise me." She looked at him with an irresistibly entreating expression and extended her hand, which he seized so warmly as to give her pain. But she returned the pressure, and there was a moment's silence, which Anna Warner interrupted at the right time. The next day, on the Aston farm, all the preparations were quietly and successfully made long in advance of the first arrivals. The Reverend Mr. Chaffinch and a few other specially chosen guests made their appearance in the afternoon. To Joseph's surprise, the Warners and Miss Blessing speedily joined them. It was, in reality, a private arrangement which his aunt had made, in order to secure at the start the very assistance which he had been plotting to render. One half the secret of the ease and harmony which he felt was established was thus unknown to him. He looked for hints or indications of management on Miss Blessing's part, but saw none. The two women, meeting each other halfway, needed no words in order to understand each other, and Miss Rachel, gradually made secure in her part of hostess, experienced a most unaccustomed sense of triumph. At the supper table, Mr. Chaffinch asked a blessing with fervor. A great, balmy dish of chicken stewed in cream was smoking before his nostrils, and his fourth cup of tea made Rachel Miller supremely happy. The meal was honored in silence, as is the case where there is much to eat and a proper desire and capacity to do it. Only towards its close were the tongues of the guests loosened, and content made them cheerful. "You have entertained us almost too sumptuously, Miss Miller," said the clergyman. "And now let us go out on the portico and welcome the young people as they arrive. I need hardly ask you, then, Mr. Chaffinch," said she, "whether you think it right for them to come together in this way." "Decidedly," he answered. "That is, so long as their conversation is modest and becoming. It is easy for the vanities of the world to slip in, but we must watch. Rachel Miller took a seat near him, beholding the gates of perfect enjoyment open to her mind. Dress, the opera, the racecourse, literature, stocks, politics have their fascination for so many several classes of the human race. But to her there was nothing on this earth so delightful as to be told of temptation and backsliding and sin, and to feel that she was still secure. The fact that there was always danger added a zest to the feeling. She gave herself credit for a vigilance which had really not been exercised. The older guests moved their chairs nearer and listened, forgetting the sweetness of sunset which lay upon the hills down the valley. Anna Warner laid her arm around Miss Chaffinch's waist and drew her towards the mown field beyond the barn, and presently, by a natural chance, as it seemed, Joseph found himself beside Miss Blessing at the bottom of the lawn. All the western hills were covered with one cool, broad shadow. A rich orange flush touched the tops of the woods to the eastward, and brightened as the sky above them deepened into the violet gray of coming dusk. The moist, delicious freshness which filled the bed of the valley slowly crept up the branching glen and already tempered the air about them. Now and then a bird chirped happily from a neighboring bush, or the low of cattle was heard from the pasture fields. "Ah," sighed Miss Blessing, "this is too sweet to last. I must learn to do without it." She looked at him swiftly and then glanced away. It seemed that there were tears in her eyes. Joseph was about to speak, but she laid her hand on his arm. "Hush," she said. "Let us wait until the light has faded." The glow had withdrawn to the summits of the distant hills, fringing them with a thin, wonderful radiance. But it was only momentary. The next moment it broke on the irregular topmost boughs, and then disappeared, as if blown out by a breeze which came with the sudden lifting of the sky. She turned away in silence, and they walked slowly together towards the house. At the garden gate she paused. "That superb avenue of box!" she exclaimed. "I must see it again, if only to say farewell." They entered the garden, and in a moment the dense green wall, breathing an odor seductive to heart and senses, had hidden them from the sight and almost from the hearing of the guests on the portico. Looking down through the southern opening of the avenue, They seemed alone in the evening valley. Joseph's heart was beating fast and strong. He was conscious of a wild fear, so interfused with pleasure that it was impossible to separate the sensations. Miss Blessing's hand was on his arm, and he fancied that it trembled. "If life were as beautiful and peaceful as this," she whispered at last, "we should not need to seek for truth and in sympathy. We should find them everywhere." "Do you not think they are to be found?" he asked. "Oh, in how few hearts! I can say it to you, and you will not misunderstand me. Until lately I was satisfied with life as I found it. I thought it meant diversion and dress and gossip and common daily duties. But now I see that it is the union of kindred souls." She clasped both her hands over his arm as she spoke and leaned slightly towards him, as if drawing away from the dreary, homeless world. Joseph felt all that the action expressed and answered in an unsteady voice. "And yet, with a nature like yours, you must surely find them." She shook her head sadly and answered, "Ah, a woman cannot seek. I never thought I should be able to say to any human being that I have sought or waited for recognition. I do not know why I should say it now. I try to be myself, my true self, with all persons, but it seems impossible. My nature shrinks from some and is drawn towards others. Why is this? What is the mystery that surrounds us?" "Do you believe," Joseph asked, "that two souls may be so united that they shall dare to surrender all knowledge of themselves to each other, as we do, helplessly, before God?" "Oh," she murmured, "it is my dream. I thought I was alone in cherishing it. Can it ever be realized?" Joseph's brain grew hot. The release he had invoked sprang to life and urged him forward. Words came to his lips, he knew not how. "If it is my dream and yours, if we both have come to the faith and the hope we find in no others, and which alone will satisfy our lives, is it not a sign that the dream is over and the reality has begun?" She hid her face in her hands. "Do not tempt me with what I had given up, unless you can teach me to believe again," she cried. "I do not tempt you," he answered breathlessly. "I tempt myself. I believe." She turned suddenly, laid a hand upon his shoulder, lifted her face, and looked into his eyes with an expression of passionate eagerness and joy. All her attitude breathed of the pause of the wave that only seems to hesitate an instant before throwing itself upon the waiting strand. Joseph had no defense, knew of none, dreamed of none. The pale brown eyes, now dark, deep, and almost tearful, drew him with irresistible force. The sense of his own shy, reticent self was lost, dissolved in the strength of an instinct which possessed him body and soul, which bent him nearer to the slight form, which stretched his arms to answer its appeal, and left him, after one dizzy moment, with Miss Blessing's head upon his breast. "I should like to die now," she murmured. "I never can be so happy again." "No, no," said he, bending over her. "Live for me." She raised herself and kissed him again and again, and this frank, almost childlike betrayal of her heart seemed to claim from Joseph the full surrender of his own. He returned her caresses with equal warmth, and the twilight deepened around them as they stood, still half embracing. "Can I make you happy, Joseph?" "Julia, I am already happier than I ever thought it possible to be." With a sudden impulse, she drew away from him. "Joseph," she whispered, "will you always bear in mind what a cold, selfish, worldly life mine has been? You do not know me. You cannot understand the school in which I have been taught. I tell you, now, that I have had to learn cunning and artifice and equivocation. I am dark beside a nature so pure and good as yours. If you must ever learn to hate me, begin now. Take back your love. I have lived so long without the love of a noble human heart that I can live so to the end." She again covered her face with her hands, and her frame shrank, as if dreading a mortal blow. But Joseph caught her back to his breast, touched and even humiliated by such sharp self-accusation. Presently she looked up, her eyes were wet, and she said, with a pitiful smile, "I believe you do love me, and I will not give you up," said Joseph, "though you should be full of evil as I am myself." She laughed and patted his cheek. All her frank, bright, winning manner returned at once. Then commenced those reciprocal expressions of bliss, which are so inexhaustibly fresh to lovers, so endlessly monotonous to everybody else. And Joseph, lost to time, place, and circumstance, would have prolonged them far into the night, but for Miss Julia's returning self-possession. "I hear wheels," she warned. "The evening guests are coming, and they will expect you to receive them, Joseph. And your dear, good old aunt will be looking for me. Oh, the world, the world. We must give ourselves up to it, and be as if we had never found each other. I shall be wild unless you set me an example of self-control. Let me look at you once, one full, precious, perfect look, to carry in my heart through the evening." Then they looked in each other's faces, and looking was not enough, and their lips, without the use of words, said the temporary farewell. While Joseph hurried across the bottom of the lawn to meet the stream of approaching guests which filled the lane, Miss Julia, at the top of the garden, plucked amaranth leaves for a wreath which would look well upon her dark hair, and sang, in a voice loud enough to be heard from the portico, "Ever be happy, light as thou art, pride of the pirate's heart." Everybody who had been invited, and quite a number who had not been, availing themselves of the easy habits of country society, came to the Aston farm that evening. Joseph, as host, seemed at times a little confused and flurried, but his face bloomed, his blue eyes sparkled, and even his nearest acquaintances were astonished at the courage and cordiality with which he performed his duties. The presence of Mr. Chaffinch kept the gaiety of the company within decorous bounds. Perhaps the number of detached groups appeared to form too many separate circles or atmospheres of talk, but they easily dissolved, or gave to and took from each other. Rachel Miller was not inclined to act the part of a moral detective in the house which she managed. She saw nothing which the strictest sense of propriety could condemn. Early in the evening, Joseph met Lucy Henderson in the hall. He could not see the graver change in her face. He only noticed that her manner was not so quietly attractive as usual. Yet on meeting her eyes, he felt the absurd blood rushing to his cheeks and brow, and his tongue hesitated and stammered. This want of self-possession vexed him. He could not account for it, and he cut short the interview by moving abruptly away. Lucy half turned and looked after him, with an expression rather of surprise than of pain. As she did so, she felt that there was an eye upon her, and by a strong effort entered the room without encountering the face of Elwood Withers. When the company broke up, Miss Blessing, who was obliged to leave with the Warreners, found an opportunity to whisper to Joseph, "Come soon." There was a long, fervent clasp of hands under her shawl, and then the carriage drove away. He could not see how the hand was transferred to that of Anna Warrener, which received from it a squeeze conveying an entire narrative to that young lady's mind. Joseph's duties to his many guests prevented him from seeing much of Elwood during the evening, but when the last were preparing to leave, he turned to the latter, conscious of a tenderer feeling of friendship than he had ever before felt, and begged him to stay for the night. Elwood held up the lantern, with which he had been examining the harness of a carriage that had just rolled away, and let its light fall upon Joseph's face. "Do you really mean it?" he then asked. "I don't understand you, Elwood. Perhaps I don't understand myself." But the next moment he laughed, and then added, in his usual tone, "Never mind, I'll stay." They occupied the same room, and neither seemed inclined to sleep. After the company had been discussed, in a way which both felt to be awkward and mechanical, Elwood said, "Do you know anything more about love by this time?" Joseph was silent, debating with himself whether he should confide the wonderful secret. Elwood suddenly rose up in his bed, leaned forward, and whispered, "I see. You need not answer. But tell me this one thing. Is it Lucy Henderson?" "No, oh no. Does she know of it? Your face told some sort of a tale when you met her tonight." "Not to her. Surely not to her." Joseph exclaimed. "I hope not," Elwood quietly said. "I love her." With a bound, Joseph crossed the room and sat down on the edge of his friend's bed. "Elwood," he cried, "and you are happy too. Oh, now I can tell you all. It is Julia Blessing." Huh. Elwood laughed, a short, bitter laugh, which seemed to signify anything but happiness. "Forgive me, Joseph," he presently added, "but there's a deal of difference between a mitten and a ring. You will have one, and I have the other. I did think for a little while that you stood between Lucy and me, but I suppose disappointment makes men fools." Something in Joseph's breast seemed to stop the warm flood of his feelings. He could only stammer, after a long pause, "But I am not in your way. So I see, and perhaps nobody is, except myself. We won't talk of this any more. There's many a roundabout road that comes out into the straight one at last. But you, I can't understand the thing at all. How did you come to love her? I don't know. I hardly guessed it until this evening. Then, Joseph, go slowly and feel your way. I'm not the one to advise, after what has happened to me, but maybe I know a little more of womankind than you. It's best to have a longer acquaintance than yours has been. A fellow can't always tell a sudden fancy from a love that has the grip of death. Now I might turn your own words against you, Elwood, for you tried to tell me what love is. I did, and before I knew the half. But come, Joseph, promise me that you won't let Miss Blessing know how much you feel until... Elwood, Joseph breathlessly interrupted. She knows it now? We were together this evening. Elwood fell back on the pillow with a groan. I'm a poor friend to you, he said. I want to wish you joy, but I can't, not tonight. The way things are fixed in this world stumps me out and out. Nothing fits as it ought, and if I didn't take my head in my own hands and hold it towards the light by main force, I'd only see blackness and death and hell. Joseph stole back to his bed and lay there silently. There was a subtle chill in the heart of his happiness, which all the remembered glow of that tender scene in the garden could not thaw.